Your phone buzzes. You look. Nothing important. You look again anyway. You already know this happens dozens of times a day. But the real answer for why is far stranger than bad habits or weak willpower. It starts 60,000 years before smartphones existed. Picture your ancestor walking through tall grass. She is not checking a screen, she is checking a bush. Berries here yesterday. Maybe berries today. Maybe not. She doesn't know until she looks. That uncertainty is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. Because your brain was never built to reward certainty. It was built to reward the search. Here is where the science gets strange. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran an experiment with pigeons and a lever. Press the lever, get a food pellet every single time. The pigeons pressed it when they were hungry. Simple, predictable, almost boring. Then Skinner changed one variable. Instead of a pellet every time, the lever paid out at random. Sometimes once, sometimes 10 times, sometimes not for a while. What happened next surprised even him. The pigeons didn't press the lever less. They pressed it constantly, obsessively, even when they weren't hungry, even when nothing came out for long stretches. The unpredictability didn't discourage them. It hooked them. Skinner called this variable ratio reinforcement. It remains to this day the single most powerful pattern of reward ever discovered in behavioral science. Stronger than a guaranteed prize. Stronger than a big one. The not knowing is the engine. Sound familiar yet? Decades later, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz put this idea under a microscope, literally, by recording individual dopamine neurons in the brains of monkeys. He expected dopamine to spike when a reward arrived. Juice in the mouth. Dopamine fires. Simple. But that isn't what he found. Dopamine didn't peak at the reward. It peaked at the uncertainty right before it. The bigger the uncertainty, the bigger the spike. A reward you were sure was coming barely registered. A reward you weren't sure about at all lit up the brain like nothing else. Your brain, it turns out, isn't a pleasure-seeking machine. It's a prediction machine. And prediction error, the gap between what you expected and what actually happens, is the real currency of motivation. This is the part almost nobody tells you. You don't crave the reward, you crave the almost. Now walk back into the present, into your pocket. Every time you unlock your phone, you are pulling a lever that pays out at random. Sometimes there's a message that matters. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's a like, a comment, a headline that changes how you feel for the next 10 minutes. You cannot predict which one it will be. That's not an accident. That's the entire design. A researcher named Natasha Sher, 1-4L, spent years studying the people who build slot machines, and what she found should unsettle you. Designers don't try to make players win. They try to make players stay in what she calls the machine zone, a state where the outcome barely matters anymore. The point isn't winning. The point is not stopping. Notifications work the same way. Feeds work the same way. The scroll never runs out because it was never supposed to. Here's the twist your brain doesn't want you to notice. The apps didn't invent this feeling. They found it. It was already sitting inside you, built by millions of years of foraging in a world where the next bush might be empty and the one after it might not be. Your ancestor's brain rewarded her for checking, not for finding. Checking was the safer bet. Checking cost almost nothing and occasionally paid off enormously. A food source, a threat spotted early, a new group of allies. The behavior of looking again, just in case, kept her alive long enough to pass that instinct on to you. She never got to stop looking. Neither, it seems, do you. But here's what should actually change how you feel about this. You are not weak for reaching for your phone 40 times a day. You are running software that was optimized over a timescale longer than you can really picture to notice possibility and uncertainty. That software worked. It's why your ancestors survived long droughts and lean winters when a less curious, less compulsive cousin species did not. The problem isn't the wiring. The problem is what's plugged into it now. A bush that might have berries checks itself in seconds, and then you move on with your day. A phone that might have something interesting never runs out of might. It is engineered by people who have read the same research you just heard to make sure the uncertainty never fully resolves. There is always one more scroll, one more refresh, One more small chance the next one will be the good one. So what do you do with this? Not nothing, and not despair either. Once you know the mechanism, you can see it operating in real time. That itch to check, right after you already checked. Notice it. Name it. That's not curiosity about the world. That's an ancient reward loop firing in an environment it was never designed for. Some people build in friction on purpose, turning notifications off, leaving the phone in another room, because they understand you can't out-willpower a system this old and this well-tuned. You can only change what it's pointed at. Think about the last time you felt truly, deeply absorbed in something, a conversation, a walk, a task you lost track of time doing. Chances are it had a version of the same uncertainty built in. What will she say next? What's around this bend? How will this turn out? The same ancient machinery, aimed at something that gave something back. Because the real answer was never that you're addicted to your phone. You're addicted to not knowing what happens next. Your phone just figured that out before you did. Tonight, it will buzz again. You'll look, nothing important. And somewhere behind your eyes, a very old part of you, older than language, older than fire, will already be waiting for the next one.